What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cinema Trip Reviews. I am Wyatt, and today in the show, we'll be talking about Bring Her Back. If you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Cinema Trip Reviews. Also, drop in and leave us a good review wherever you get your podcasts. Really helps us get the show out there to a lot more people, and I really appreciate it. So today, I'm talking about Bring Her Back, the latest film by Danny and Michael Philippou. They are the directors of Talk to Me from a couple years back, released by A24. This movie is also released by A24. I actually really dug Talk to Me back whenever it released. I only saw that one time in theaters, so I'm probably due for a rewatch. But it was the type of movie that kind of stuck with you for a while. It definitely made me think about certain things and definitely had a interesting twist on the whole kind of ghost slash possession type genre a little bit. I really dug that movie. If anybody hasn't seen Talk to Me, I highly recommend go and check that one out. But this movie, man, as soon as it was announced that they were releasing it, they were going to be making a new horror movie, and then of course once the initial trailer came out, I was immediately going to be there opening weekend because this movie, just by the original trailer, it just seemed like it was going to be a way more darker and scary, intense type movie. And boy, what did I kind of hit the nail on the head with that assumption, because this movie is not the feel good movie of the summer, that's for sure. If that's what anybody's looking for, this is a vastly different type of movie from Talk to Me. It's way darker and bleak and depressing at certain points. And boy, the gore and some of the stuff they do within the movie, even for somebody that really digs the gore within movies. For anybody that's watched the channel knows how much I like the gore and the different practical effects and stuff they use within horror movies and stuff. I love that type of shit. But there was multiple scenes in this movie that would make me like tense up and cringe a little bit, man. Like it's one of those movies that has such realistic type violence in it. I mean, the stuff that they do within the movie, it just feels and looks so real, man. And I mean, it's funny because I brought this up to my fiance who didn't go see the movie with me, unfortunately. But like I was telling her about it, and she's like, "Well, you watch Terrifier and all that. Like, how's it that much different?" And it's like, to me, Terrifier and some of these other movies that have extreme amount of violence and gore in it, especially with Terrifier, it's kind of played off in more of a, for the lack of a better term, like cartoony type of way. Like, it's so over the top that it's laughable and you have fun with it. Whereas in this one, with the movie, with how dark and tense and kind of real, kind of the realistic world that it lives and paints, that like kind of paints the picture in. It feels too real, and especially the violence that happens with it. Without giving the spoilers away, it does involve teeth at certain point, and I've always been kind of bad with certain, stuff dealing with teeth in horror movies. Just some past history, having teeth pulled and stuff is just, it automatically makes me cringe when I think about teeth being pulled or something having to do with teeth. So there's a couple parts in this movie that made me like, it's one of those things where like you want to look away, but it's so gross and crazy that you can't help but to watch and everything. So the whole time I was just kind of squirming in my seat while watching, and like, oh man. And it's been a long time since I've had a movie that kind of had that effect on me. Even Terrifier movies, like with how crazy they go, they don't make me kind of like squirm or cringe in any type of way. And actually, I find the violence and stuff within Terrifier just hilarious, with the ridiculous lengths that they go to and the ridiculous kills that they come up with in those movies. Whereas this one is definitely way more grounded and it feels way more real. And it's in the effects in it, the practical effects in it are absolutely amazing. So, I mean, it definitely gives you that sense of realism and that it feels like it's actually happening. And boy, it works tremendously in this movie. And man, I'm sure that like people that aren't really huge horror fans or gore fans going into this, they're really going to be kind of closing their eyes or turning away from the screen or squirming in their seats, and that's the type of stuff I really like about movies. It gives you those sense of feelings and stuff that you're not used to. And man, I just love movies that nowadays that are able to, one, either scare me, which that is super hard to do. I haven't had a movie that actually kind of scared me, and since like Hereditary, that gave me the heebie-jeebies. I'm just so desensitized to that type of stuff now with all the type of horror movies that are coming out, but also just kind of make me kind of squirm in my seat with the gore or violence or kills or the effects and stuff. And there's not too many movies that can do that. And man, I gotta give Got to give them credit for this one. They really they went all out with this. Just to kind of put it out there, I really enjoyed this movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't have too many issues with the movie at all, and I'm kind of get to that in the back half. But since it is a brand new movie, I'm probably not going to get into too many spoilers or anything like that. Like I mentioned, this movie is directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, who made Talk to Me. It also stars Sally Hawkins, who is absolutely amazing in this movie. Sally Hawkins, I haven't really seen too many things with her in it, but dude, she is fantastic in this movie. Probably up around the level of like Toni Collette in Hereditary. I'm not saying she's as good as Toni Collette in Hereditary because that's a whole nother level, but I'm saying like the performance that Sally Hawkins gives in this movie, it's up there. It's reaching up to the levels of Toni Collette in Hereditary. She is fantastic in this movie. The movie revolves around the two main characters, Andy and Piper, played by Billy Barrett and Sora Wong. Don't really know too much about them, but they are pretty tremendous in this movie. They have great performances. I mean, all the performances in the movie are pretty great, but man, Sally Hawkins is just on a whole nother level compared to anybody else. And that's just based off of what she has to do and the character that she portrays. And you also have Jonah Wren Phillips as Oliver. He is the one that you see in a lot of the marketing and the trailers and stuff with the kid with the shaved head, who there's something going on with him. And boy, he's probably one of the craziest characters you've seen in a long time and quite a while in horror movies. Basic plot and gist of the movie, you follow Andy and Piper, who are step siblings, and their father ends up having an accident, ends up getting killed, and they are kind of put into the foster care system. Even though they're like half siblings or step siblings, he kind of watches over her because Piper is mostly blind. She's mostly blind, so she can't really see too much other than just light and basic like shape, like kind of forms or shapes of people, I guess. But she's mostly blind, so he's kind of like her caregiver and watches out for her and everything. So within the foster system, he doesn't want to be separated from her whatsoever. He wants to be with her. They both end up coming under the care of Laura, played by Sally Hawkins in the movie, and that's what I'm talking about. Her performance is amazing because she's like one of those characters that you have in most of these horror movies where you're meeting an adult and you're dealing with kids where there's something off a little bit. There's something off. You don't really know what. So, of course, you have to kind of put these clues and stuff together as you're watching the movie to see exactly what's lying beneath the surface. What are they really up to and everything. And boy, she's got a lot going on. Without getting too far into the plot or spoilers, this movie really kind of revolves around dealing with grief and dealing with death. It has a lot of dark tones to it and it has amazing atmosphere to it. And I mean, that's a lot of A24 movies in general, but this there's not a lot of feel good moments in this movie. I mean, you do have a couple here and there between Andy and Piper, but most of the movie, man, it is depressing. It's a hard watch at certain points. It's definitely dark as far as subject matter at certain points, as far as like abuse goes, and a lot of people trying to deal with grief and death, and what to do going forward and how to overcome that type of thing. Also deals a lot with lying and gaslighting and such. So that's the kind of element that really starts kind of infuriating and pissing you off as the user, and not really in a bad way. I'm not talking about like the movie itself is bad that it pisses you off. It's more so that the intentions of a couple of these characters really start coming out as the movie goes on, and they start gaslighting and setting other characters up in these predicaments. And as the viewer, you just become so mad because you're seeing all this being set up and seeing the lies that are being told throughout the movie. And you want the main characters to figure this out. You want them to kind of figure it out and get out of there, or figure it out and go tell somebody, or try to resolve this issue. The movie does a great job of building and building and building and building because, I mean, from the moment that you have Andy and Piper show up at the house, even within the first 5-10 minutes of them showing up, there's certain signs here of like, oh, that's a little strange. That's kind of off. And like you have those seeds kind of planted early. That way, throughout the whole movie, it just slowly and slowly builds and grows. And of course, it ends up reaching a breaking point where just all hell breaks loose and you have no idea what's going to happen. If you haven't seen the movie and you're fine with a little bit of spoilers, you're fine with continue watching here. I'm not going to go into super spoilers or anything, but if you want a little bit more before you go in to see the movie, definitely stay tuned, because I do want to give a little bit of information here without going into full spoiler territory. Sally Hawkins' character of Laura, she does have certain intentions with bringing Piper and Andy in and raising them and helping them out and such. Because as you kind of find out, Laura, she had a daughter at one point who was also blind, and she ended up dying. And she is also trying to deal with grief, and she's also trying to cope with the loss of her daughter. And the only person she really had in her life, because you don't really figure out what's going on with the dad in this situation. They don't, as far as I remember, she doesn't even talk about the father or anything like that. But because of her daughter being gone, she kind of goes through the dark web and tries to find ways of, you've guessed it, bringing her back. And that's kind of about where I'm going to leave it, instead of going into super mega spoilers, because like I mentioned, this movie does involve, dealing with grief and coping with grief, and how everybody kind of deals with that differently. I mean, all three of these characters that you deal with in the movie, as far as Laura and Dan and Andy and Piper, they all deal with their grief differently in different ways. And they all have their own things that separate themselves from each other, and what their motivations are. And they also have certain backstories that you come to find out as you go through the movie, that really kind of brings situations to a new light in a way. That's where I'm kind of going to leave it as far as the plot goes. Because I gave you a little bit of spoiler here and there, but that nothing I told you is going to ruin the experience here for you, because there's a lot that I didn't mention that goes on within the movie that is just absolutely batshit insane. And most of that does revolve around the character of Oliver, or Ollie as he's called in the movie, played by Jonah Wren Phillips. He was, like I mentioned, he's on most of the posters, he's in a lot of the trailers. He's that shaved head creepy kid that's walking around doing weird things. And most of the absolutely batshit insane stuff that you see in the movie does involve this character. And that's probably maybe the thing that people are going to have a problem with the most within this movie, is the violence towards children. And I'm not just talking about, Oliver's character, but I'm talking about also Andy and Piper in the movie, dealing with abuse and dealing with violence against, teenagers or kids that aren't even teenagers yet. And I feel like that's going to be hard for some people to kind of get over or move past. Oliver in this movie, I mean, I'm assuming this may be one of his first roles for Jonah Wren Phillips. He barely says anything in the movie at all. But I think the performance that he gives is fantastic, just because it's a lot of, all the acting is within just body movements and in the eyes and such, and just exactly the look of the character and everything, because the look of the character definitely evolves as the movie goes on. And boy, by the end of the movie, that character is probably one of the creepiest looking characters I've seen in movies in quite some time. To be honest, I mean, it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there as the most recent kind of some of the creepiest characters we've seen in movies. Music in it is great. The cinematography is tremendous. The only real kind of nitpick I have is the very ending of the movie. Doesn't really come to a satisfying conclusion, at least for me. Maybe to other people it would. I needed a little bit more closure with the ending of the movie. It definitely left it, I wouldn't say open ended, but the way that it ended, it definitely gives, it's up to you to decide, like, did this happen or did this happen? And with the way that the story transpired between those three main characters, I definitely needed more of a kind of a finality, and more of like a definite answer. It kind of ends on a note where you're just like, well, what happened next? What's going on? Like, I need to see what happened here. Like, did this happen or did this happen? I really need to know, just for the main character's sake. I need to know exactly what happened here. It definitely makes you feel a lot of feelings as a viewer, and that's the thing that you go to the theaters, and why you watch movies in the first place. You want to, go through these certain feelings, and this movie definitely puts you through the ringer as far as feelings go. And most of them are not good. And they're not good feelings. You're gonna be you're gonna be leaving the theater a little like depressed or bummed out, or I wouldn't say terrified, because this movie isn't really scary by any means. It definitely has some creepy scenes, some interesting creepy scenes. But most of the kind of unsettling stuff and creepiness comes from like I mentioned, the violence, and definitely the back half of the movie, where really turn the notch up to 11 and it starts going batshit insane. But as far as the movie itself, the cinematography is fantastic. The directing in it and writing in it, it was pretty damn great as well. It was a very, very solid, second outing for these two directors. And I'm very much looking forward to see what they do in the future. I'm hoping they stick in the horror genre because I would love to see what these two crazy ass dudes come up with next. The performances are tremendous. Sally Hawkins and everybody else are fantastic in the movie. There's not much to not like about this movie. Out of go see it in the theaters, rent it, or miss it, I'd say go to theaters. It was a great movie. Highly recommend going check this one out. And if you haven't already, definitely go check out Talk to Me as well. But that is a review for this week. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Cinema Trip Reviews. Also, drop in and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Really helps us get the show out there to a lot more people, and I really appreciate it. But as you already know, I am Wyatt. This is Cinema Trip Reviews, and I'll see everybody next time.